Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I learn things because you guys tell me what to learn, much to my own detriment. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Saturday. Substantive Saturday. So this is all your fault. Well, the only reason I'm watching this is because you guys told me to. For those of you who are listening in the future or are not aware, I held a poll on my Twitter account asking what subject should I cover today. The options were intersectionality, whiteness, and parenting. I honestly did not think that parenting would make the cut, but it did, and so here we are. And who is we in this iteration? Why, that would be Avi, hello. Ham and Beans, hello. Absolutely Degenerate, hello. The Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Ophelia the Happy Red Panda, hello. Mr. Joestar, hello. Rotten Corpse, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. Spyro Girl, hello. And then the chat jumped, because of course it did. Wade Willison, hello. Dark Alile, hello. Anthrax Allen, hello. Gulf City Peterbilt Confederacy 379, hello. No One Nowhere, hello. NC Metal, hello. That One Servant of Satania, hello. Spittle Buggies, hello. Brian Has Opinions, formerly the Broken Baller, hello. Catherine H, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. Benenator Zero, hello. Red Chaos Tree, hello. Let's see. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Molly Mags, hello. Lamented Guide, hello. Ms. Slim 1, Guten Tag. Dina B, hello. Picala Driving 8-Man, thank you so much for the here arrow. Yes, here we are. Rock us like a hurricane. Do-do-do-do-do. Deco, hello. St. Michael, hello. Elish Norn, hello. Formerly Rod Line, hello. Juggernaut, hello. Super McFluffykins, hello. Quinn the Cultist, hello. Grillin' Pirate Pete, hello. John Smith, hello. This is Kyle, hello. And thank you so much. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle. Faithless, hello. The gayest person on YouTube, thank you so much. One, please, and one you shall have. Eugene Byrne, hello. Jeanette E. Hillis, hello. Crimson Tiger, hello. Roger Reynolds, hello. Sabian 187, hello. Holy cats, guys. So many of you. All right. So, yeah, what is this now? Well, this is social justice parenting. Social justice parenting. And I had some questions as to exactly what does the thumbnail mean? Well, aside from a hidden Easter egg reference that I'm not sure many people will get, yeah, so helicopter parenting is a phrase that is very popular these days, as in, parents who are very, very focused and always, monitoring their children and sort of micromanaging everything. And I just kind of imagine that social justice parenting is very directed micromanaged parenting. So attack helicopter parents. That's what I meant. Thank you, Lady Gopher, for the donation. And the Dogcat Fox, we are number one. We are number one. And anybody who can guess or decipher the hidden Easter egg in the thumbnail, you get a gold star that of my appreciation. Yes, that's what you get. So I'll try to keep an eye on the chat for that if you can tell me what it is. But if you can't, it's okay. It's all right. I won't hold it against you. Let's see. Anything else to mention before we begin? I don't think so. So with all that being said, I'm going to start off with a couple of seconds of sound test so you guys can tell me whether you can hear it. This is a relatively long TEDx. It's not as long as the last one, but then the last one kind of went by really quick because the guy was saying absolute nonsense. Oh, Ham and Beans got it. Attack Helicopter was the font based on Airwolf. You are correct, Ham and Beans. Ham and Beans wins the gold star of appreciation. Yes, when I thought up the phrase attack helicopter parents, the first thing that came to mind was Airwolf. And I thought, I wonder if I can find the font for Airwolf. And I did. And so I did it. And there you go. Awesome ham and beans. All right. So you guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we'll proceed.
Why wasn't I more kind?
I don't know. Why weren't you more kind? Can you guys hear that okay? Let me know. Why wasn't I more kind? Sounds regretful. Sounds reflective on previous attitudes in life or treatment of others, I suppose. Anthony Fox says yes. Steve Luzon says yep. John Smith says good. Black Belt for Christ says hi, Scribe. Hi, Black Belt for Christ. All right. Well, then, let us proceed. So let us learn something about becoming social justice parents.
Where was my radical love?
What?
Did I do enough?
I don't know.
It was an ordinary Thursday morning in my house of 7 with 5 school-age, overscheduled children.
Okay, well, we're going to go to the bingo card. By the way, guys, bingo card is in the description if you need a link to the image. So we're going free space and childhood or family anecdote are already circled. So we're already off to a good start for our bingo card. And as many people have requested, in the near future, if not today, I will be adding a square and taking out something, not sure yet, but adding a square that says mind reading or assumptions or something to that effect, because we see a lot of mind reading and like, I know what you're thinking, et cetera, or assumptions about people's thoughts and such. So not quite sure what I'll replace with that, but it'll happen in the near future. And that comes from several people suggesting that one. So anyway, that's beside the point. Let's continue.
I was involved in my normal morning multitasking where I was cooking breakfast, packing lunches, checking backpacks, and giving directives.
Okay.
My 13-year-old son had recently been diagnosed with anxiety.
Oh, that sucks.
And normal situations were now seen as unsurmountable obstacles.
I can empathize. I lived and technically still do live with anxiety disorder, so that is something terrible. Also, that is an awfully small red circle for a TEDx talk. Usually those carpets are quite large, so I don't know what happens if she wanders off. Does she lose the match like in a sumo competition? I don't know.
I was always his champion, his go-to person, his rock.
Well, I'm presuming you're his mother, so why wouldn't you be? Well, I mean, there are bad mothers out there. That's true. It's true.
I understood him.
Okay.
Actually, there's a little of him in me.
I won't go there.
But as his anxiety increased and his irrational reactions grew more and more, and as his black male body got taller and took up more space, and I saw so many moms losing their black sons at the hands of others.
Okay. I'm inclined to circle make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. And at the hands of others. Who exactly?
My everyday, ordinary concerns began to manifest as paralyzing fear.
Oh, okay. I need more context. We're only a minute or so into this, so I hope we will have some. So he had anxiety, diagnosed with anxiety. Did she mention his age? I don't think she mentioned his age at this point. But we're still on this particular Thursday, whenever this is happening, I think. Okay, you're paralyzing fear over the safety of your child. I can understand. I mean, if you're in a part of the world or whatever where there's a high crime rate and so on, as you've just described, then I guess that would be a reasonable concern, I guess.
On this ordinary Thursday morning, my son came to me and said, Mom, I forgot to do one of my homework assignments that's due today. I said, well, you know, do what you can in the car and turn in what you have.
Yeah.
I could tell he was getting upset, and I saw his anxiety starting to rise.
Yeah.
But I thought he can use some of the strategies that he's been learning, and he can work it out by himself while I finish up the morning routine.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat as to where this is going. I can hardly stand it.
As we start piling in the car heading for school, I noticed he was missing.
Okay. And now I don't know if this is where the story is going. I really hope this isn't a story of, and then my child died or something, because that'd be a downer.
So I honked my horn several times and it didn't come out, and I felt my anger starting to rise.
Yeah.
And so I got out of the car and I went back into the house and I went to his room to tell him to get in the car. And I didn't see him.
Okay.
My anger was turning into stress.
Isn't anger kind of a form of stress to begin with? Or thank you, Chicago Mike. He's 14, Scribe. Okay, did she say that? Okay, 14. All right, 14 years old. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
I was running around the house calling his name, and all I heard was silence.
Okay.
And my stress is now turning into that paralyzing fear.
Okay.
And that inner mean girl, she started waking up.
That inner mean girl. Oh, okay. Thank you, Jason Gears. Sorry, Jason Gears. Meth is a hell of a drug. I suppose it is. You ever seen those Montana meth public service announcement commercials? That's some grim stuff right there. But, okay, so your 14-year-old disappeared. And you're getting angry. Okay, these are all natural occurrences, sort of.
You're a terrible mom, she said to me.
Because your kid is hiding or trying to buy more time to do his homework? What?
You knew he was struggling. You knew he was struggling. Why didn't you plug in?
Okay, like I say, I really hope this doesn't lead to and then my son killed himself or some crazy thing like that, because I'm going to feel really bad.
Why didn't I plug in? Why didn't I listen to him? As I run to my bedroom, the only room left in the house to check, he wasn't there.
Okay.
And so I fell down on my knees, tears streaming down my face, and I said,
what?
Why wasn't I more kind?
What?
Where was my radical love?
What? Wait a second. You saw him 10 minutes, 5 minutes earlier, and you can't find him in the house, so you fall to your knees and start. Okay. I'm going to reserve my judgment goggles until I get more information here, because I'm confused.
Did I do enough?
To do what?
Home should be a safe place, a place where every child is heard and valued and unconditionally loved.
I don't know. Some kids are annoying. Sorry.
In 2017 and 2018, Huffington Post, Time Magazine, and Psychology Today, they took a poll and they asked parents, what are your greatest fears for your children?
Apparently not doing a homework assignment and I guess disappear. Wait, what happened to your son? He disappeared off the face of the earth? Are you going to finish that story? Because I really need to know what happened.
Consistently, some of those answers included my child being safe in the world.
Yeah.
My child being attacked or bullied.
Sure.
Or my child growing up with a sense of privilege and not enough compassion.
Okay, privilege. We are circling privilege on the board, and I'm tempted to circle leaves out vital context unless she finishes this story of what happened to her son, because I kept expecting like she walks into his bedroom and he's hurt himself or something, or I don't know, like falling to her knees and crying because, I mean, did he run away from home? I don't understand.
The same question was asked children about their greatest fears.
Okay.
And their responses included gun safety, violence, bullying, and domestic abuse.
Okay. these are all, I mean, everything that the parents answered and everything that the kids answered are, legitimate concerns. Okay, and?
What if we can change those fears into something more positive?
What if we could change those fears into something more positive? I don't know. What if, I guess?
What if we could work together so that every child felt safe and secure and a sense of radical love?
Radical love. Okay, and I've made jokes about the process of creating your own TEDx before, and if you want to, like I said, I did this with Sinatra on his channel. Think of a positive notion, in this case, love, and then decide, do you want to do a presentation that promotes this thing or denigrates this thing? And if you want to denigrate this thing, you put toxic in front of it or some other negative connotation. And in order to promote this thing, you put radical in front of it. So like radical empathy or radical love in this case. So anyway, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I'm circling that one. Radical love. Radical love. Okay, but back to her point. What if we could, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, it is a parent's duty, as far as I'm concerned, to try to keep their children safe, to try to provide a safe environment for them, safe home, et cetera, et cetera. But fear in and of itself is not an inherent negative. It's a necessary component of living. Caution, wariness as you move through the world. You don't want to coddle your kids and make them think that they're invincible or anything. So if kids are concerned about guns, if they're concerned about domestic violence, if they're concerned about bullying, well, that's good in a sense, because you have a kid who will probably be more wary around guns and probably won't be a bully themselves, and, and so on. So yes, you want to provide, but you don't want to, disillusion children that the world isn't sometimes a very difficult place and there aren't problems to be aware of. I'm not quite sure if she's promoting coddling children yet, but that's what it kind of sounds like.
Paulo Freire defines radical love as an act of courage.
No, an act of courage is an act of courage. You can perform an act of courage that has nothing to do with love, unless you want to talk about like on the high level of, common humanity, someone running into a burning building of a stranger to save someone's life, a love for humanity, a compassion for someone else, and so on. I guess maybe you can call it that, but anyway.
Not fear.
Courage requires fear. An act of courage is courageous because there is a threat, there is a peril involved of some kind. And you usually don't undertake an act of courage if there isn't fear involved. So I know I'm getting literal / philosophical. I apologize. I'm an English major.
An openness to see others, to hear others. Every child has a story, especially those children who've been marginalized or who have been silenced in some way.
Marginalized or marginalization, circling that on the bingo card. Boy, this is turning into a sort of a boilerplate TEDx talk, isn't it? Yes, every child has a story. It's true. What does that have to do with your son who disappeared off the face of the earth because he didn't finish his homework one day and you falling to your knees and crying in your bedroom when you couldn't find him? What's this have to do with parenting again?
Radical love is the commitment to dialogue, the commitment to listen.
What?
What if?
She stepped off the circle. Okay, does she lose the match now? I mean, they gave her a very, very small circle, so I guess I can't hold that against her too much.
As former President Barack Obama said, we are the ones we're waiting for.
What?
We are the change that we seek.
Well, it depends on who you are and what you're doing, I suppose. I guess. Or we have to be the ones to be the change we want to see. Yeah, I mean, that's a common notion.
On that ordinary Thursday morning on the floor in my bedroom.
Okay, we're going to get back to that story because I'm dying to know what happens. Thank you, Jason Gears, again. Back in the day, radical love was being disciplined with a belt. Well, that's one way of putting it. Radical love. Radical love. You know, your basic love just isn't enough. It has to be radical love. All right, do you love your kids? I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You have to practice radical love. Is that coddling by any chance? Is that sort of suffocating love? Is that over-concerned and over-policing your children by any chance? I don't know. But okay, you're back in your bedroom crying on the floor because your son has disappeared off the face of the earth. And again, I really, really hope, fingers crossed, that we're not leading up to a tale of where she found her son hurt in some way because his anxiety got the better of him. Really hope that's not where we're going, because I'll feel really bad.
I was parenting from my fears.
You weren't parenting at all. You were kneeling in your bedroom crying and freaking out because you couldn't find your son. You weren't parenting at all. Your son wasn't there. What are you talking about? Mom, I didn't finish my homework. Well, do as much as you can in the car and turn in what you can. It's exactly what I would tell my kid if I had a kid. It'd be like, well, you had all the opportunity to get your homework done. You didn't do it, so make use of the time you got. We'll be at school soon. What's wrong with that? They have to be held accountable for their own mistakes and misbehaviors. They didn't do the work on time. Well, they have to face the consequences. The end. I don't care if a kid's got anxiety or not. That's how the world works. And that's how the world is going to have to, well, that's how they're going to have to deal with the world, whether they have anxiety or not. You know, I lived 20 years with anxiety uncontrolled, and I still had to get to work on time. I don't know. Thank you, Chicago Mike. I thought if you step off the circle, it affects the space-time continuum. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a TEDx talk where they stepped off the circle multiple times before. But again, usually the circle's giant. This is a tiny, there's like a bath mat. Whereas like the ones in the usual TEDx's are like giant living room throw rugs.
My son.
Yeah.
My black teenage son.
What does his color have to do with, you know, I don't care. I'm circling, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. It does not matter. The color of your son's skin does not matter here. You've not made it relevant in any way, shape, or form. And parenting should not be dependent on skin color or something. What does that have to do with your parenting style?
And full of anxiety.
Yeah.
And possible irrational thinking. Mm-hmm. And wearing a hoodie.
What the? Okay, if you say so. That's this has what to do with his disappearing off the face of the earth after he wouldn't do his homework?
Was now walking or running somewhere in my predominantly white neighborhood.
Oh my God. Well, I guess then he's just going to be target practice for all those white supremacists in the neighborhood, obviously.
I was afraid.
You were paranoid.
I was living in paralyzing fear.
You were paranoid.
And I needed some way to change that fear.
Yeah, maybe lighten up. The entire world isn't out to kill your son just because he's black or wearing a hoodie.
Social justice parenting is a result of that transformation.
Wait. Social? Okay. Well, you're going to have to define what social justice parenting is so far, because so far you did something that was, by my estimation, completely reasonable. A response as a parent to a child who didn't finish their homework. I mean, what did the kid expect you to do? Wave a magic wand and solve his problem for him? No, he didn't use the time allotted to get the work done he was supposed to. So he can get done what he can in the car and turn it in when he gets to school, and that's it. Now, I might back up a step or two and ask, golly gee, Mom, why weren't you more involved in monitoring your child's homework and their schoolwork? How is it that your kid ended up not finishing their homework unless you weren't paying attention to and at least having an active role in his education? But you know what? I'll forgive that, because parents can't see everything all the time. And especially at 14, at that point, I would expect a kid to be let, the apron strings to be loosened quite a bit. And they have to learn to take responsibility for themselves to a certain extent. I mean, that's what my parents did with me. At 13, my sister and I were basically free range at that point, but those were the olden days. So she started out by telling me a story that I don't really have a problem with insofar as my understanding and my idea of parenting. But now, because her son disappeared with a hoodie on for some reason, which she hasn't explained, because she fell to her knees in her bedroom and started crying because she couldn't find her son, which I suppose if you think he's missing or disappeared, that could be stressful. But anyway, all that aside, the only thing that had to do with parenting is her putting the onus on her son to do his homework. But because she freaked out in a racist way over the safety of her son, now she's transitioning to social justice parenting because her previous parenting style was inadequate, I guess. Okay, what is social justice parenting?
I want you to think about if you are interested in social justice parenting.
You need to define it first, or else I don't know if I'm interested.
All you have to do is remember one word.
Oh, one word? Okay, wait, one word doesn't constitute a list. Usually when somebody starts listing off numbers, I think, oh, it's a list. But now one word isn't, well, no.
And that word is rocks.
Okay, well, hey, at least it wasn't boulders, but okay, rocks. Like you are your son's rock, like you said at the beginning, which like I say, I would hope most parents are to their children, mothers, fathers, or otherwise. Rocks, okay.
No, it doesn't make sense, right?
No, it really doesn't make sense. I really hope you give us some context, because so far you haven't explained what happened to your son. You haven't defined social justice parenting. And honestly, you haven't given us any reason to think that what you did in the anecdote previous was somehow inadequate as a parenting style. So yeah, you really need to explain yourself.
Right now.
Yeah.
Follow along.
Okay, I'm following.
Imagine, if you will,
yes,
a stream or a flow of water in a river.
Are there two fish side by side in this river? Do they come across an older fish and ask him, "What is water?"
And in that stream represents fear, your fears and your children's fears.
Man, this and the last TEDx, these are the streams of consciousness presentations, aren't they? Okay, a river of fear. Sounds like an old 40s noir movie, but all right, river of fear.
Now, if we take that river and we put rocks of radical love in the middle of that river,
whoa,
it can transform fear.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Brian has opinions, formerly the Broken Baller. So she is an SJW obsessed with race and buzzwords. Imagine that. Can you believe it? All right. So River of Fear. Suddenly I think of River of Dreams by Billy, not Billy Idol. What the hell is wrong with me? Anyway. Yeah. So a River of Fear, rocks of radical love. So the rocks of radical love disrupt the river of fear and divert it into different places and don't make it the torrents or something, right? Is that it? Okay.
Radical love has rippling and expansive ways of transforming fear.
Right. And yes, Zero the Hero, Billy, I didn't say it out loud. Yes, Billy Joel, whatever one of my sister's favorite artists is Billy Idol, and I just saw her today and we were talking about stuff. So for some reason that caught in my brain. But anyway, yes, the rocks in the river are disrupting the flow of fear, barriers and diversions. And okay.
Radical love rocks.
If you say so.
Reflection, open dialogue, compassion,
yeah,
kindness,
yeah,
and social engagement.
And somehow those things constitute the buzz phrase of radical love. They don't constitute themselves as sort of inherent parts of human interaction and productive relationships. I always think it's amazing how somebody can take a whole bunch of common sense or completely mundane notions, put them together, and wrap them in a package of a new buzz phrase and talk about them like it's some amazing revelation. It really does come across as philosophical snake oil a lot of the time, doesn't it? Or is it just me?
Let's start with the rocks.
Let's start with the... You said that the only word we had to pay attention to was rocks. Start with the rocks? The alpha and the omega of your philosophy here is one word, isn't it? So, okay.
Reflection.
Oh, I see. Oh, this is a list. This is a list. Thank you for giving me a list. Moving on.
I'm going to begin by asking you to reflect on your own experiences, your own childhood memories, ways that you are privileged, ways that you may feel marginalized.
Oh, what if I feel both at once? I had the privilege of having parents who were responsible enough to work their entire lives. So my sister and I had a good upbringing. I was also marginalized because I was smaller and shy and wore glasses at a young age and got beat up by people and made fun of and left out of things and so on and so forth, and caused all types of psychological issues. So can I be both at the same time? What does that do? Does that like destroy the universe, like matter and antimatter coming together?
And think about the impact that this has on your life.
Oh, I often do.
And the life of your children,
Well, I don't have any.
If you're a parent.
Yeah, I'm not.
Self-reflection is essential in social justice parenting.
It's, I think, essential in just growing up. I really hope you're not going to say that self-reflection is unique to this philosophy of yours, because it is not. And just because I do practice self-reflection does not make me a social justice anything.
I often reflect on my own childhood memories and their impact on my parent.
And you're unique in that regard?
My parenting, sorry. For example, one thing that I remember, my dad, who was, he came of age during the Jim Crow era.
Of course he did. Yeah, okay.
And he would say to me, don't trust white people.
Wow, at that time, I can understand that. But obviously, since Jim Crow laws have gone the way of the dodo, you would kind of see that as sort of a racist, divisive notion today, or even in general, wouldn't you?
Don't trust white people. You saw my family picture. You think I listened to that, right? Hey, babe.
Okay, so your father's notions are, antiquated at this point, then, you'd say? Oh, except for that your neighborhood where your son was wearing a hoodie was predominantly white, and you were scared because obviously white people are going to hurt your son for wearing a hoodie. Wait, which is it? Are you afraid of white people or not? I'm confused.
But for me as a young child growing up in a all-white neighborhood, my family was the only black family in my neighborhood at that time.
Wow, your dad must have really had rough days every day.
And this brought a lot of angst to me as a young child. But it wasn't until I was a young adult that I recognized the context in which his perceptions and his fears were shaped.
Sure. And given the context, given the era and everything else, your father can be forgiven for holding some, what would be now, relatively regressive ideas. So, yeah, that doesn't make your father a bad guy, but obviously you saw the error of his ways as time and the society progressed, right? Or wait, no, you're still scared for your son walking through a white neighborhood with a hoodie on. So, which is it?
You, as a parent, need to think about your privileges and how we convey those to our children.
What? What?
In my house, we openly, intentionally unpack power and privilege and how it's situated in the world and where my children fit into that.
So in your household, you teach your children about the power privilege stratification of them based on what? And how does that inform their viewpoint of others? How is that at all different from what your father was doing when you were a child? You know, I'm inclined to use the phrase 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other here, because it sure sounds like it.
I once had a coaching client who said to me, I just want to keep my kids in a bubble.
Are you a life coach? I don't know what this lady does for a living, so a coaching client. Okay.
I just want to protect them from anything bad that's going on out there.
Yeah, well, that's usually the instinct of parents, fathers, mothers, whatever. It's to protect their young ones because they're vulnerable, because they're naive, because they're growing, because you're responsible for them. Yeah. You know, and there are healthy and unhealthy ways to try to express that concern. That is the struggle of parenting overall. As I understand it, I admit I'm not a parent, but, you know, I can empathize with those that I know that are parents, and I can sort of imagine.
Why can't I keep their innocence as long as I can?
Because that's not how the world works. And in fact, them losing their innocence in the sense of feeling safe all the time is part of growing up. You don't want a kid being perpetually naive or feeling like they're perpetually invincible and can do no wrong. They have to make mistakes. They have to scrape their knees. They have to get up and move on anyway, despite it, because that's life. You know, you don't want your kids to get hurt, but you got to accept the fact that they will be. And you need to be there as a parent to help them through it. You can't protect them from everything. And in fact, you probably shouldn't.
And my response to her was simple.
Yeah?
Aren't you lucky you get to choose?
What?
There are so many children that don't get the privilege of living in that bubble, not even for 1 minute.
Wait, no. She's talking about her and her relationship with her child. Other children, doesn't matter. Wait, you're going to you're going to do a blame game on her because she's worried about her child's safety or something? What kind of response? You're a life coach or some kind of coach? What? You privileged, you get to choose. You get to choose? What do you mean?
Truth, it can't happen in that bubble.
What?
Social justice parenting is about us stepping outside of that bubble to teach our kids about others and reflecting on our lives and what we have or don't have and how we can build relationships with our children, with other people.
It's exactly what I was saying before. You're taking all of these common mundane notions and wrapping them up in some kind of buzz phrase and pretending like it's some innovative notion, some revelatory idea. Oh, Social justice parenting is about teaching our kids about other people and how the world works and how relationships work. You don't say, except you can take that whole social justice part out of the phrase. That's just parenting. That's just raising a child in the world. What are you even talking about?
O. O is for open dialogue.
Yeah, again, something that obviously never occurs in normal parenting.
Sometimes we have to have those hard conversations with ourselves and with our children.
Oh, and you know me, I love uncomfortable conversations.
Black feminist scholar Bell Hooks says,
oh, Lord, Bell Hooks. Wasn't Bell Hooks like on the proto bingo card? Oh, if only we had the old bingo card, I could have circled something by now.
Openness and honesty are the foundation for insightful dialogue. Now, I'm not telling you you're always going to know the right thing to say to your children.
I would hope you wouldn't do that, because that would be a stupid statement. Now, Bell Hooks, if I'm not mistaken, is a famous feminist. I don't know if just saying her name counts as a feminism for the bingo card. We'll see. Maybe she'll go further.
Some of these topics are hard topics.
And
I'm not telling you you're always going to say the right thing.
You just said that. You're repeating yourself.
But your children need to see that.
They need to see that you are falsely omniscient, or that you're honestly confused. I mean, if it's the latter one, sure, because that's honest.
They need to see that you don't always have the answers.
Yes, that's true. I mean, it's true. That's okay. I'll agree with you on that one, at least on that point. Don't, have them living under a misapprehension about your omniscience or anything.
They need to see you open and honest.
Yes.
And vulnerable.
Yeah.
And full of emotions. And constructive ways of dealing with those emotions.
Yes. How is that social justice parenting? You still haven't defined what social justice parenting is as compared to normal parenting, or okay.
Open dialogue is also about listening. Listening to our children's voices and affirming those voices.
Well, what if your children are stupid and wrong all the time? No, sorry, I know.
If we thought about the power differential between parent and child, and we let that get in the way of listening to our children, they slowly lose the power to hear their voices, and they lose the power to use it in the real world.
What? Okay. Word salad. That was word salad. Also, there has to be an established power dynamic between a parent and a child. The child needs to know where the lines are drawn in order to encourage discipline, self-restraint, accountability, and so on. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are parents that parent different ways, and there are loose boundaries and there are firm boundaries. You can be overbearing, you can be underbearing. I don't know what the balance is. I don't know the correct way to do it. I mean, I could probably cite my parents as being pretty good parents, but my father made mistakes, my mother made mistakes, but I turned out okay. Never mind the police sirens in the background. Yeah, but again, what does any of this have to do with being social justice parenting versus just the exploration of trying to become a good parent?
And we don't want to do that. We don't want to silence our children.
Well, no, but you also don't want to let them run free like wild animals either.
C is for compassion.
No, C is for cookie, and that's good enough for me.
Having compassion for yourself, having compassion for others, and modeling compassion to our children.
Yeah, because everyone lacks compassion in a non-social justice parenting model, I guess.
It's essential. Sometimes my family, we will pay for the person behind us in line.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you.
And my kids get so excited every time we do it.
Doing something nice for somebody, that's fine.
They think they are changing. They're changing the lives of the people that they are paying for.
Well, to a small degree and maybe profound degree, depending on how that person sees the world. You know, if you have somebody behind you and they have a very cynical outlook on people and society and so on, and you make a nice gesture for no particular reason, that could dramatically alter someone's perception of things. That's true. And so good for you, I guess. What does that have to do with being a social justice parent versus just being a nice person? Or can people not be nice people unless they're social justice people?
It's a very small gesture. Having compassion for others is something easy to do, but it has to be modeled.
Modeled? Okay, what do you mean?
One of the things that we do in our house, because it's really about teaching kids to see others and see others' perspectives. We call it owning your own junk.
I thought that would be more like empathy, seeing through other people's owning your own junk. Okay, so like taking responsibility for your own things.
And so what that means is when my children come to me and they like to tattletale about what their sibling did or what their dad did or somebody at school, my first response is, wait a minute, own your own junk first.
So let he who is without sin cast the first stone, or mind your own business, or golly gee whiz, these are such amazing new concepts I never would have considered before, just with a new buzz phrase wrapped around it. Oh, wow.
So they have to then go back and take ownership into their position or their part in whatever thing they're trying to tell me.
So don't tell me about somebody else's misdeed. Remember how you also have misdeeded. Live in perpetual self-shame. I mean, there's something to be had with some schadenfreude. I mean, come on. It's one of life's little entertainments, isn't it?
So this teaches them that there's more than one perspective.
Really? Does it? Is that why they're coming to you telling these rumors and things? Because they know everybody doesn't think alike, and they know you'll probably be shocked and or surprised by it because they think there's only one perspective? What? Jesus. If they didn't think there were more than one perspective, why would they be complaining or talking about somebody else's actions? They wouldn't even think twice about it. It would just be normal or something, wouldn't it?
Kindness.
Uh-huh.
Kindness is the extension of...
Letting these sirens pass by. Kindness is also, if I'm not mistaken, a relative synonym to compassion. So you're kind of redundancying yourself there, but all right.
Of compassion into an action, a doing, a practice.
So when you paid for the person behind you in line, the impetus was compassion, but the act was kindness? Is that it?
Acts of kindness are more than just, they touch lives more than just the recipients of the kindness, but it really adds value to the lives of your children.
It can, but it's not limited to parenting. What are you... How is social justice parenting any different from parenting? Nothing you have said so far is unique or somehow divergent from anything I would consider as either normal parenting or just being a normal, civilized, caring individual in life, children or not.
It teaches them to make kindness permanent in their lives.
Yes, be a good role model for your kids. I get it. I agree with it. Yes, fine. Social justice, what?
One time, my family and I were in a drive-through line.
Okay.
And the person behind us was blowing her horn, and she was screaming that we were taking too long. And listen, we got 5 kids, so we do take long.
Okay, so you were taking a long time. Okay.
And I don't know about your kids, but we go through the same drive-through, and they have to look at the menu like it's a new menu. So I felt her.
Okay, so you had a certain level of, let's say, compassion for the person behind you. You understood the frustration. Okay, fine.
But when I got to the window, I asked the cashier to pay my bill and pay the bill of the lady behind us.
Okay, so this is the same anecdote you were telling us before. Repetition much?
And my kids were like, I can't believe you're paying her bill.
Really? I mean, isn't this something you'd been doing for years because of your... Was this before or after you had your social justice revelation? Because if you were doing this before your son disappeared, what does that have to do with social justice parenting? And if you're doing this after your son disappeared, is this the first time you ever paid for somebody behind you? And that's why your kids were bewildered? Which is it? I'm confused.
She was so rude. And I said, yes, but maybe she needs a little love and kindness today.
And I don't disagree with that. Very nice of you. In all sincerity. No, not being facetious at all. It's very nice of you.
And we're in a position to give it to her.
Okay, that's great.
And as we drove off to the red light,
yeah,
the woman drove next to us and she said, thank you and God bless.
Okay, well, there you go. That's a nice, sweet story. That's great. What does that have to do with social justice parenting? At all? How is that different from just being a nice person? Some might say an overly nice person, but that's fine. What does that got to do with it? How is that special as compared to quote unquote normal parenting? Or sobbing in your bedroom on your knees because your son disappeared with a hoodie in a predominantly white neighborhood after not doing his homework? Parenting.
And so my kids got to see radical love in action. That radical love wins.
Okay.
It's about filling their cups with things that are positive.
Yeah.
And things that are lasting, making kindness permanent over time.
And that's great. What does that got to, why differentiate that with the moniker social justice? What does that have to do with anything? How is one defined versus the other? What change did you make between sobbing in your bedroom and afterwards? I mean, own your own junk, right? Take responsibility for your own whatever. That's exactly what you were teaching your son by telling him, well, get done in the car what you can. Was that not social justice parenting by your own definition? Where is the transition? What is the difference?
The final building block is social engagement. Social engagement is the pathway to activism.
Okay. You're teaching your kids to be activists. That's where the social justice comes in. That's the stinger. Okay. So you want to teach your children to become evangelists for a particular way of thinking. Well, if the evangelism they're going to take forth into the world is to be a self-reflective, honest, compassionate, and kind person, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is you've already tainted what I can only suspect is your perspective on the world by telling us about your fear over your son in a hoodie in a predominantly white neighborhood and calling him a black son when he's half white.
If we look back in time, we will see that there's so many groups of children that made lasting, permanent changes in our society in spite of fear or walking through fear.
What?
For example, in the 1960s civil rights movement, you have the Children's Crusade.
The Children's Crusade. Yes, that was an aspect of the civil rights movement. I would argue that they were a minor function of the civil rights movement next to, I don't know, everybody else, but okay.
They were the ones that were marching. They were being jailed. They were sitting in.
Just like the majority of civil rights activists at the time, what does the age range have to do with it?
They were making a difference for equality.
Yes, they were, as were a whole bunch of adults. What? People don't look, when people think of the civil rights movement, I'm sorry, they don't think of the Children's Crusade. They think of Martin Luther King Jr. and Selma and on. They think of the big adult stuff, you know, or they think of the killings, the KKK killings of the civil rights workers and everything. They think of big adult stuff. The Children's Crusade is a footnote, I'm sorry to say. They didn't change the world. They contributed to it, certainly, and that shouldn't be dismissed. What are you talking about? What does this have to do with parenting?
More recently, let's think about the students at Stoneman Douglas High School here in Parkland, Florida.
Oh boy, are we going to go David Hogg all here?
They stepped out of their fear into their activist greatness.
Greatness? That's debatable.
I was so awed by their courage and their leadership. If we are to raise children who are going to be leaders and changing the world, it all starts with radical love.
Yeah, radical love, you know, like encouraging foreign countries to take part in American elections. Oh, sorry, that was David Hogg, leader from Parkland. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
That Thursday in my house.
Yes, please. What happened to your son?
On the floor in my bedroom. I thought I had failed my son.
But what? Why? Why? I mean, you didn't know what had happened. You didn't say, I thought he ran away. You didn't know where he was. He wasn't out of the car when it was time to go to school and you couldn't find him in the house. There wasn't a possibility that he was in the backyard or he went out a different exit or he decided to walk to school. You just immediately broke down and started crying and you thought you failed him as a parent. How did you reach that conclusion? I don't imagine I'm going to get an answer to that question, but I'm just dying to know. How did you suddenly reach the conclusion that you failed him as a parent because you told him to do what he could in the car on the way to school? Anxiety disorder or not. I mean,
but 30 minutes later, I saw him.
30 minutes later? I thought you were on your way to school. What happened to the rest of your kids?
He was walking right outside our neighborhood.
Oh my gosh. Whoa, who would have thought a thing? Oh, so then you didn't fail as a parent? I guess. What?
I was so happy to see him.
Yeah, I mean, if you thought he was missing and he wasn't missing, okay, that's great. But what?
And I pulled my car over and rolled the window down.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, Mom, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I was so worried about this homework and the impact that it was going to have on my grade. I got so upset.
Yeah.
And I needed some space to walk it off."
You know what? I can empathize. Sometimes when I had an anxiety attack or something, I just needed to get away from people for a while. And honestly, walking from work and back again helped out a lot. So, okay. And in all of the time you'd known your son prior to this, he had never behaved in a similar way before? I mean, maybe it was the first time. Okay.
I had my phone on me the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm okay, but I'm sorry.
He had his phone on him the whole... So you never called his phone? I'm very confused.
And at that moment, I realized that the social justice parenting that my husband and I have used over the years had really set in.
No. Wait a second. You said that it was at that moment when you were on your knees and crying in your bedroom is when you transitioned to social justice parenting. But then 30 minutes later, when you find your son, you realized the social justice parenting you'd been practicing for years had set in. What are you talking about?
He was reflecting on his own behavior and the impact that it had on others. He was engaged in open dialogue with me, talking to me about his fears, and he was compassionate and kind.
Not compassionate and kind enough to tell you where he was. A 14-year-old spastic. What are you talking about? He's a 14-year-old kid. He's dealing with anxiety disorder. He takes a walk. He does the irresponsible thing, not telling you where he is. You freak out in the house, apparently, because he's never done anything like this before, apparently. He didn't have any frame of reference, which I suppose is possible. But then you impart upon him all of these things, what, to make you feel good? To make you think that it's your doing that he did all of these things, and now you're proud of him for disappearing and not telling you, even though you were on your knees in your bedroom 30 minutes before, feeling like you failed as a parent. Now suddenly you're a hero as a parent? Boy, man, what a difference 30 minutes makes.
Kind to me by telling me he was sorry, and kind to himself by allowing himself to kind of let out a little steam.
Are you sure you're not rationalizing? Are you sure you're not like retrospectively projecting on him things that probably didn't apply? Your own story is confusing enough. You know what? I'm circling leaves out vital context, because in the course of all of this, she has double backed on herself about 2 or 3 times and doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I hope tonight that something that I said resonates with you tonight.
You hope tonight that something resonates with me tonight. Well, yeah, it resonates with me like a jackhammer.
That we can take fear, that river of fear.
Does fear stand for something? Should there be like little periods in between the letters there? Or is that just for rocks?
And we can transform it. We can transform it to radical love. So my thoughts for you tonight, when you leave here, if you can ask yourself similar questions to the questions that I asked myself that ordinary Thursday morning.
Am I a good parent? I'll tell you what, your anecdote is poorly said and irrelevant to anything you had to say. I mean, if your child disappears, if your child, like, you can't find your child, the kind of panic that sets in, I mean, I have seen mothers in shopping malls, and I've heard anecdotes from mothers about how they turned around and they didn't see their kid, and within 5 seconds they had a panic attack. Where's my child? Okay. Now, that is understandable. The protective instincts, the mother bear or father bear instincts are all encompassing in most parents. So if you suddenly couldn't find your son and you freaked out about it, hey, no blame. There are no judgment goggles on that one. So you freaking out about not being able to find your son, I get it. It's fine. You get a pass. You're a mama. It's great. That's fine. Okay. And the relief you must have felt when you found out where he was, since he didn't tell you where he was going, must have been great as well. What does not being able to find your son mean about you being bad as a parent, unless you made some conclusion about your actions having led to that? Because you didn't do anything wrong. Nothing about what you described was bad parenting. And nothing about the situation immediately calls to you being a bad parent. So your anecdote means nothing to whatever you're arguing for. And nothing of what you've said, save for the activist part at the end, which you didn't elaborate much on, honestly, nothing of what you said is social justice specific. Not, let alone the fact that you didn't actually define what social justice parenting is at any point, but okay, we're almost done.
On the floor in my bedroom.
Yeah.
How can you be more kind? How can you model radical love?
How do you know I'm not already doing all of these mundane things that you've decided to wrap up in a buzz phrase? How do you know that? Why do you assume I'm not?
Are you doing enough?
Enough what? What did you not do enough of prior to your son taking off for school? What? What about that anecdote says anything about this?
I hope the answers to your questions guide you in your parenting and in your life. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's review the bingo card, shall we? What have I not circled so far? Let's go over that real quick. And as always, guys, if you have arguments for or against as we proceed, I'll entertain those in a moment, but just let's review. Okay, I have not circled. Let's see. Actually, let me display the card first for everyone's edification here, because I don't want to show you what I've got so far, and we can go over it together. Okay, so systemic institutional. I don't believe she ever talked about systems or institutions, did she? I don't recall. I don't think so. Patriarchy? No. Plays victim? I mean, no, she wasn't playing a victim per se. Wage gap? No. Anecdote that probably never happened. I mean, I don't believe that the anecdotes didn't happen. Her interpretation of what it meant is bizarre, but that doesn't mean I think that the kid didn't decide to walk to school by himself and get some space. That sounds completely reasonable to me. So on the face of the actual actions taken, I don't think it's a false story. School to prison pipeline, no. White supremacy, no, even though she got really close to effectively talking about predominantly white neighborhood and so on and so forth. Toxic, she never said the word. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, no. Self-vilification or wretchedness. You know, I'm inclined to circle that one just because she was on her knees thinking of herself as a terrible parent or whatever, and etc. And she needed to change her ways of thinking or whatever. So, yeah, I'll circle that one. Benevolent condescension. I mean, she got close in bringing up the race of her kids and the race of the people in the neighborhood, etc., for no particular reason. That's kind of the square there, but I don't know. Does benevolent condescension work? I don't know. Equity, she never said the word. Feminism, she brought up bell hooks, but that doesn't cut it as far as I'm concerned. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. No. I mean, she brought up Jim Crow, but she never, inserted herself into any of that stuff specifically. Speaker should not be in current occupation or position. Well, in the context of this, her occupation or position, I suppose, is being a mother. And it's a hard reach for me to make to say that she should not be a mother or something. So, but she said she was like a life coach, and she was telling that person who had a concern about her child's safety that they needed to look at themselves and think about. Yeah, I'm going to circle that one just because that was some snap back, reversal blaming stuff there on your client. That's not what they were concerned about. You're trying to make them into the villain when they're concerned about their child's safety. What is that? That was so bizarre. Gratuitous pausing for effect. There was a couple of long pauses, but I didn't feel it was gratuitous. Okay, so with a couple of maybes, that's where I'm at right now. If you guys have any suggestions or arguments otherwise, let me know. Assassin of the Grave, benevolent condescension. That angry white lady in the drive-thru needed love too. Did she say it was a white lady? Was she that specific about it? I thought she just said it was a lady. I don't know. TEDXcellence, she whined on about loose stories in her life to get sad pats. Seems like she was there as a part of a therapy session. She contradicted her own story at least 2 or 3 times. And her story didn't make any sense. She couldn't find her son. Suddenly she's a bad parent. Like, how do you come to that conclusion based on that information? I mean, I'd be more worried that my son ran away from home or something. Now, if that was the conclusion she came to, that maybe you could go to the bad parenting, but she never said that. She just said she couldn't find her son. And he had his cell phone on him the whole time and she didn't call him? Or if she did call him, he didn't respond? I mean, I'd be mad at the kid for not telling me where he was. I don't know. I'm confused. Let's see. TEDXcellence, this talk was never about her kids. It was always about her. I guess. I mean, she was trying to promote, like, I've made this big change, except that nothing she was saying was revolutionary. Nothing she was advising was at all that interesting, honestly. It just sounded like relatively boilerplate good parent advice, or just being a good person advice. Self-reflection, compassion, being honest. Wrapping that up in rocks or in radical love doesn't somehow make it new. I hate to, but apparently that's how she does it. Keeverdam, she's an associate professor and the coordinator of the Social Foundation's Multicultural Education Program area at Florida Atlantic University. Okay. Then I guess she's well suited to her job. Grill and Pirate Pete, Scribe Light, white supremacy. Dad always told her, don't trust Whitey. You know, that's... And like she said, and I said earlier on, given the times, given the context that he was living under Jim Crow laws, I give him a pass. Back then, with those laws, as things existed, yeah, he was living under white supremacy. So I can't fault him for thinking that or promoting that as a notion. Honestly, I can't fault him. I'm not. So white supremacy, he never said it. And yeah, you could say, oh, well, it just has to mention white supremacy. But I mean, it was a comment in context. It wasn't done gratuitously or anything else. And she didn't really dwell on it that much. So yeah, it wasn't used as an excuse for anything per se. That wasn't in context. Now, her comments later about, oh, my son was wearing a hoodie in a predominantly white neighborhood, and that never came up again. Yeah, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Oh, that's what that's there for. So, let's see. Keeverdam Scribe Light. So uncircled speaker shouldn't be in current occupation position then? Oh, no, because the advice that she gave, no, you're right. I mean, I said that. I contradicted myself just there. But just listening to her say she was talking to her coaching client. And if she has clients that she's coaching, but she's turning back their concerns onto them to make them feel guilty about even asking the question, yeah, I'm going to leave it there because that seems ridiculous. Let's see. Bastard Beast. Yeah, was explaining why she's paranoid towards white people. Well, she was explaining why her dad was, and then she, by her own actions in the future, showed that she wasn't, even though she talked about she was scared about her kid being in a predominantly white. She couldn't make up her mind on that point, but she never talked about white supremacy per se. Let's see. Puddock, Scribe, you say you don't have kids, but do you think you're a fun but stern uncle? Okay, well, now you hit me in a sore spot because I'm never going to be an uncle. My sister decided several years ago that she never wanted to have children, and so she, for lack of a more technical phrase, got her tubes tied. And I will never be an uncle, much to my disappointment. Not anything that I'm mad at her about, but it's, yeah, I think I would have been a really cool uncle. I think I would have been, but I'll never know. So there's your Scribe depressing point of fact for today. Up North Steve, formerly Steve Luzon. She shouldn't be a parent. I can't make that call. I can't make that call. That's a bridge too far for me on this one. On previous TEDx's, like the lady who was complaining that her kids looked too white, yeah, that lady was something else. But this lady in particular, I can't make that call. Let's see. Tales of Gore, feminism got Scribe's sister. No, it wasn't feminism. It was just, it's a long story. It's got nothing to do with feminism. Grill and Pirate Pete, Scribelight, are you and Monkey not kind of adopted uncles to Squeedus? I guess, I suppose, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. I mean, I would do anything to protect that kid. It's one of those things. I have that sort of protective paternal thing. If Satsu or the family or Squeedus needed help in some way, I'd go to the mat. And so, yeah, I suppose in some abstract way, but actually, being an uncle, anyway, let's not dwell on that. I'm already dwelling on it enough. Let's see. Bastard Beast, her dad saying don't trust white people made her afraid of white people, hence freaking out her kid was among whites. Well, and yet she married and had children with a white man. So she was contradicting herself all over the place there. I don't know what she was talking about. So I don't know. TEDXcellence, she was more about protection of children under SJW ideology, which can't be demonized if it is taught by sane people. Thus lies the problem. Well, it seems to me that, save for that last bit, social engagement on the rocks thing, save for that where she mentioned activism, but never expanded on that. There's nothing about what she was talking about that qualifies exclusively as some kind of social justice philosophy. I guess okay, she mentioned like teaching in her household about the privileges and the disparities and their place in the world, etc. So I guess that's what it was, but that's not parenting. That's just social ideology. I mean, raising your kids to be self-reflective and compassionate and responsible and truthful, that's not social justice. That's just raising a kid to be a good person. If you then start weaving into it, oh, by the way, you should know your place in the stratification of the world based on your skin color. Well, yeah, there you go. She didn't really dwell on that, though. She mentioned it. And maybe that was the point. You just kind of weave it a little bit in there and sort of insert it into common mundane practices and ta-da, social justice parenting. I don't know. I can't say I understood it. But let's see. Unless somebody's got some other arguments, I think the bingo card is about done. I'll give another couple minutes if you guys have any other comments or questions or observations, and then we'll wrap this up. Let's see. Mr. E, benevolent condescension, paying for the woman behind her's food, that is malicious kindness, done with a don't you feel bad now air of superiority. That would require me to do a mind reading session on the speaker. And in this instance, I can only take her at her word in the overall result, that she did something nice for somebody, not because she had to, but just to do it. If she did it as a way of showing up the person behind her, maybe, I don't know. But ultimately, she paid for the person's meal, and they thanked them for it. So the ends are what they are, regardless of what the motivation might have been, which I can't tell because I'm not a mind reader. Thank you, tall person. Hey, was able to make it before it ended. Happy National Frozen Custard Day, everybody. See you all when I watch later. Thank you, tall person. Frozen Custard Day. Frozen custard. I guess the closest I've gotten to frozen custard is like a chocolatey Eclair that's been well refrigerated. I don't really have custard that often. Assassin of the Gray, Scribelight, there should be a dropping names for appeal to authority / brainwashing children / vulnerable persons for agenda boxes considered. I don't know if I want to start putting too many logical fallacies on the card. Maybe I'll think about it. The next one I'm going to do, I'm going to replace something with mind reading or assumes intent or something, or maybe / the both of them. Not quite sure which one I'll replace yet. I'll think about that. That one sort of instantaneous scribe light. Would you say her condescension towards her son came from a place of benevolence? Huh. Benevolent condescension. Okay, so he's got anxiety disorder. She thinks that she's a terrible parent. That's why he ran away. I don't think she's being self-deprecating at that point. She wasn't like, I can't expect my son to do blah, blah, blah because of the oppressive nature of the systems of privilege. She didn't do anything like that. So I can't really call that benevolent condescension. Like she said, she was being self-vilifying, self-wretched, and calling herself a terrible parent there. That's not really benevolent in any particular way. Let's see. Grill and Pirate Pete. So is the size of the rug based on how much you hate Whitey? She's married to a white guy, so she gets a tiny rug. I don't know. I don't think I've seen a TEDx rug that small before. Seniko, quoting bell hooks is feminism. Well, that really is the question, isn't it? Does simply bringing up bell hooks qualify as feminism? And does that get us a bingo? I can't do it. She was quoting bell hooks in relation to parenting or something, I think. She wasn't bringing up bell hooks about patriarchy or, gender discrimination or anything. The bingo card, to a certain extent, has to be sacred, especially when it comes down to deciding a bingo. And just mentioning bell hooks, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. That one is sort of a standing. It depends on the quote, I suppose. Yeah, if she had quoted bell hooks rattling off a tenet of boilerplate or radical feminism, I would be there. I would be there. But I can't do it. If you want to do it for your own bingo card, that's up to you. For myself, it's not enough. Not enough. And just a couple more, guys. Bastard Beast, almost feminism. It touched the border but didn't cross. Kind of, more or less. Like I say, bringing up bell hooks does not immediately make it feminism, but yeah. And Aloysius Fudpucker, C is for communist, what she wants us all to be. I didn't really catch any communism in there, but obviously her rocks thing, especially the last part, turning them into activists, but never really expanding on that. So teaching her kids about, I guess, their place in the world, I'm assuming on the basis of race, given her previous comments, and then making social engagement part of her parenting plan. Only those things in the course of her entire presentation smacked of social justice ideology. So if this was some kind of Trojan horse parenting pitch to weave in the thin wedge or the tip of the wedge kind of notion of social justice ideology into your basic parenting regimen, maybe that was it. But that's about as close as it came as far as I could tell. But anyway, guys, I'm going to call it there. I'll have to reflect on this as I usually do, because maybe something else will occur to me as time goes on. If anything else occurs to you, by all means, leave it in the comments, and I will take a look at those in time. If you'd like to hear more from me or Ranting Monkey or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find all three of us tonight on Ranting Monkey's channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern for Lords of the Night, where we'll talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Everyone, thank you so much for coming out today. Appreciate it. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. It will continue to go towards horrible things I'll put into my body, like Jack Daniels, in order to lubricate my brain from the madness that is TEDx. I may do another one tomorrow, or I might take Sunday off to rest as it goes. But either way, I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.